First of all, congratulations, you managed to get here. How bad was the traffic?
Yeah, it was my first, I suppose, appreciation of how difficult the traffic can be in Lincoln. So, yeah, hopefully it'll be one of very, very few in my time here.
Yeah, hopefully no more problems for the rest of the week. First of all, we'll talk about the transfer situation. Southend maybe pulled the rug a bit from under Lincoln a little bit by making your interest in Tom Hopper public. What's the situation with him?
The situation is that I'm hoping in the next 24 or 48 hours that we can get to an agreement.
What are his? I know you wouldn't want to talk too much because you haven't completed it, but what are his attributes? I mean, an experienced player at this level.
Yeah, he's very experienced at this level. I've been aware of Tom for a good while, to be fair. I tried to sign him at Oxford on a couple of occasions. The good thing about Tom, obviously, he's got good experience. He's played at this level. He's at a very, very good age. He probably looks fitter now than he's ever been in any stage of his career. He's gone through an injury layoff, which sometimes isn't a bad thing for players, and I know that from personal experience because from a mentality point of view, it takes you to places that you don't really want to go to. And he's hungry. I've watched him a few times this season for Southend live, and been really, really impressed. And I think he'll be a fantastic addition to the football club.
That will leave you, if that deal goes through, with 4 strikers. Is that how you plan to go forward for the rest of the season, or are you anticipating that you'll revert down to 3 at some stage?
Possibly down to 3. I can't give you any guarantees on that, on whether that will happen or not. But first and foremost, I think it's important to have as many options as you possibly can. One of the most frustrating things can be at times as a manager, 60 minutes into a game and you look around your bench and you want to make an impact and do something different, and you don't feel that you can do that sometimes, whereas obviously we've 3 or 4 strikers in the building, depending on how you play. Usually only 2 of them play, sometimes 3 at times, but having them options certainly gives you a much better opportunity to win the game.
Inevitably, we then have to ask about the situation around John Akinde. Have you had any formal approaches from football clubs for him?
Not in terms of formal approaches, but the way I deal with things, certainly if I can do, is face to face or over the phone, direct, and cut out all the middlemen. And I think obviously over the next few days we'll have a good idea and a serious idea how serious interest there is from various clubs regarding 1 or 2 of our players.
And so I was going to extend that out to the other players. So that's where you are with all those players that are sort of not featuring in your team at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's one of them where we've been completely transparent with the players. There's nothing that they don't know that I know, so to speak. So still a long way to go. Still a week or so to go, which is a long time, as we know, in any window, never mind the January window. So I'm sure there'll be a few movers and shakers over the next week or so.
And it tends to quicken up as well, doesn't it, the market at this stage of it?
Yeah, it does, and sometimes, obviously, when you've got the game that we have midweek, it makes it a little bit crazier than probably you can anticipate at times. I think that's why the January window, people either leave it alone and try and get the business done in the summer and keep it at that. Sometimes you're not quite as fortunate. Sometimes you come into a job halfway through a season and you have to try and do bits and pieces to get it where you want it to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next week or so. Not only obviously the fact that there might be 1 or 2 new faces or an opportunity for players to go elsewhere. Obviously we've got some important games as well.
You would potentially look at other positions, centre back being one of them. Is anything on that sort of front?
Well, we're still in discussions with various parties, but at this moment in time that means absolutely nothing, until you get to a point where you can speak to the player and the club are happy to speak to a player. It doesn't really mean a lot. So even though we're quite confident that by the end of the window we'll be able to address that, at this moment in time there's nothing much more to turn it.
Can I just ask you about the club strategy in terms of the transfer market? Because talking to a lot of the players who've come in, I've noticed some of them have said, I was aware of Lincoln being interested in this in the summer. I've been told that Lincoln were interested in Hopper potentially in the summer. Is that a case of both your targets and the club's targets coming together since you've come in, or have you come in and changed the targets? How has it worked?
A bit of both. All I would say, there's not a player that will come through this door that I didn't know about or wasn't instructing the recruitment team to make sure that we do the due diligence that's expected. I'll be very surprised if anybody can come to me with players that I'm not aware about. Very surprised. That was a big part of what we did at my previous club, and it will be at Lincoln going forward. But like I said, I've tried to sign Tom twice already, maybe 3 times when I was at Oxford. So, in terms of interest in him in the summer, I believe there was. We've got an opportunity to do it now. Hopefully it'll get done. And then with the likes of the young lads anyway, like I say, I've obviously had various roles over the last few years. One of them a manager, one assistant manager, one working as a 23 coach. So it's a teamwork between myself and some people who work really, really hard behind the scenes. But I can assure you, there won't be anyone coming into this football club until I give it the green light.
How important are the personality of the players that you're signing? You'll be aware we interviewed, and the local paper did as well, we talked to Max and to Connor and to Tyrese on Tuesday. And walking away from that, I was struck that I was talking to 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And I think when I started out doing this job a long time ago, I'm not sure I'd have got 6 or 7 minutes out of them and quite reasoned and thought through answers. It feels like they're quite mature. Is that just part of the product of where they're coming from, these academies, or is that something you're also looking at?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Definitely, I think, at such a younger age now, they're exposed to all sorts of stuff. One of them obviously being social media. And I know they get training and educated on how they conduct themselves and how they shouldn't conduct themselves. And part of that is obviously being able to hold a conversation with people and be in a room, know your audience. So there's no doubt about that. They'll be aware of that. But again, what we've got to be really careful is one thing wanting to take and bring young players into the building, but we won't expose ourselves to bring in 17, 18, 19-year-olds if we didn't think they were able to, like you say, be more than capable of delivering an interview or holding themselves with the right people. And
I know you always expect to win, but when you think you lost 3 players who would have been first teamers for you in December, you brought in some youngsters and you picked up 7 points in a week, which is a pretty good return when you think about it.
Yeah, it's a good start. It's definitely it was a great week for us last week. It was a good start. Different challenges in all the 3 games. Obviously going behind against Shrewsbury, then having the courage to come back and do it how we did, and probably should have won the game. And then obviously to back that up with 2 home performances against 2 very different teams. So it's a start. It is only a start. We've got another massive week this week. We've got two big clubs to face over the next 3 days in Portsmouth and obviously Ipswich on Saturday. It's going to be another big challenge for them. We're not getting carried away. I do believe winning and that mentality of winning becomes a massive habit, and I think once you get it, it's very difficult to shake off, and hopefully that'll be the case.
You talked about the importance of stringing results together if we are going to talk realistically about the playoffs in a few weeks' time, and that really underlines what comes up on Saturday, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I've said it a couple of times already. When people have got excited after a couple of decent wins in this room, we've got back-to-back wins quite a few times over the last couple of months or so, and then not being able to back that up with taking something from the next game, whether that's a point or the 3 points. So that's the challenge to the players on Saturday. Going to a very, very difficult place. We've been there already last year, and played ever so well and got a draw out the game and got a replay. There's not much that we don't know about Ipswich. There's not much that they don't know about us because of the 3 times that we've played them in such a short space of time. So it's important, like I say, we go there and we put a performance on that gives us an opportunity to take something from the game.
Has the overall stand of the league surprised you? I mean, it's just, it's just that compactness of it. You know, that there's so many teams within a few points. I can't remember it being quite like that before. I don't know if that's a feature of League One particularly. You know, but it just seems like there's not a lot to choose between about 15 to 16 teams.
Yeah, it surprised me a little bit, but I've sort of kept my eye on it over the last couple of years, as you can imagine, and certainly from like the bottom of the table to the mid-table, that's been really compact over the last 2 or 3 seasons, and it's got down to the last 3 or 4 games of the season to sort out who goes down, who stays up, etc. I suppose what surprised me more than anything is that there's some massive clubs with huge budgets in the league that I expected to almost sort of run away the top 6 or 7, maybe 8 teams, whereas that hasn't been the case, and I suppose that's I think we are where we are. Yeah,
Pretty much the same as it was with Frank and with Bozzy and that.
Yeah, I mean obviously Freck's trained for maybe 6 or 7 days now, so yeah, let's see how he comes out of the next few days.
So with the arrival of a couple of signings in midfield, do you think there's a lot of competition in that area at the moment?
There is, which I think is only be a good thing. When I come into the club, we had a lot of central midfield players at the football club. Possibly the wrong age. I think we've now got some legs in there. We've got some athleticism in the middle of the park. I think that's been evident in the last 3 games. I think going forward, obviously what I want to do and make sure is that we've got players in the middle of the park that are our players. That was a big part of being Teo in. The fact that he's a permanent and he's a player who hopefully we can develop and make him even better than what he is now. Yeah, I mean, the idea behind certainly some of the younger players coming in is, one, developing them because they're our players. But if we're going to develop players that are obviously other teams, then making sure that they work for us for a short period of time.
And since you started at the club, you've not lost a game where you've scored first, and you've drawn from that position twice. Once was at Shrewsbury and once was at Portman Road in the FA Cup. Do you think you've worked a lot since then on protecting your lead? Obviously in November.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we work a lot on protecting the lead. I think what I would say is that I think if you looked at that stat, and I don't know the exact figure, but scoring a goal, first goal in any game, is huge. Is massive. We didn't score the first one against Shrewsbury, by the way. But anyway, that's another one. But I think scoring the first goal against any team's massive. And it doesn't matter what level you're playing at, whether you're playing Champions League, whether you're playing Conference, whether you're playing, 2 or 3 divisions below the Conference. I think it's important to get that first goal because it gives you a platform. It means the other team have got to come out and come and try and throw bodies forward and create more opportunities, which then gives you the opportunity to counter-attack. So it is a big thing. It's something we do speak about. But I also would say is that one of the challenges I put to the players probably a month or so ago, maybe a little bit more, was if we do concede the first goal, being brave enough and having the courage to come back and win a game of football. And obviously the Peterborough was a big test and we passed that one.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.